Maybe you're losing weight, you're gaining weight, you can't think straight or hold your concentration, and everything about your life experience currently just feels like it is in jeopardy. Whatever the situation might be, you and I today, we're going to work through it together. Hey guys, you're back with your girl, Miss Annie J, and today, 10 steps that will help you deal with and get through difficult situations like a boss. Now, the thing is, I know that our brains struggle to hold water these days. So I'm just going to drop 5, and then in the next video that I do, you'll get the remaining. Because ultimately, with the way that you're feeling, because I've also been there, I've experienced it, and I know what that feels like, I also don't want to come and overload you, because I can appreciate that things might be feeling kind of fragile at this point in time. So the first group of our 10 steps, number 1, move away from negative self-talk. Sometimes we don't realize how impactful our words can be. The Bible even says in Proverbs 18 verses 21, death and life are in the power of the tongue, and they that love it shall eat the fruit thereof. The thing is, what we don't realize is when we're talking and saying certain things, you keep on repeating either this productive or negative talk to yourself, and eventually your subconscious is going to take that, fertilize it, and manifest it into your reality. I get it. When you're going through a tough situation, it is difficult to now have a optimistic or positive perspective, but it is necessary, because guess what? Tough seasons do not last. A season in your life, they are temporary. This is not the end. This is not going to be the forever. And so don't base your existing, current, present day speech on temporary circumstances, because you're just going to negatively impact your experience of life and outcome of the situation. Because if you're thinking negatively, you're going to be expecting negative outcomes. So sometimes, even though it's tough, you have to start speaking productively into the situation. Speak life into it and back the life that you are speaking with the actions that you take. And the next thing you know, you're going to be heading to a possible resolve. And even if you don't, you're going to be moving into a position where this situation is not going to cause you to crumble emotionally and break you down. If it isn't fixable, we can learn something from it. And what we learn from it, we can apply in the future to our benefit. Think about it this way. In Numbers chapter 13, Moses sends out 12 spies to spy the promised land that the Lord said, you are going to partake. And after sending those 12 spies here, they came back with a very dubious report. Their report was peak. It was full of fear. And that fear was contagious and kind of just spread like wildfire. They came back to report and said, we were in our own sight as grasshoppers in comparison to the current inhabitants of the land. That was their perception of themselves, of the situation. You see what negative talk can do. And if you read the rest of that scripture, you will see how that attitude spread amongst the other Israelites. Like, they all became fearful. And so despite the unbelief of some of the spies here, Caleb was still a man of boldness and courage, because they're coming with a negative report. They're seeing and perceiving things based on their own belief system and perception of the situation. Caleb comes back and Caleb says, let us go up at once and possess it, for we are able to overcome it. Like, look at the difference between the speech. Two people can be in the exact same situation, and depending on their perspective and their attitude and their approach, they will tackle the situation differently, and the outcomes that they both see will be so stark in comparison to each other. And so this is what I'm saying, that I understand the situation is difficult. It's tough. The way we see it with our eyes is very vivid and believable. But despite that, it is in these very moments that you have to act on faith. Talk the things that you want to see. Talk what you believe is going to be the outcome that you actually desire. Do not succumb to what the evidence and the situation is showing you, because if we do that, your emotions are constantly going to be tossed to and fro throughout life. Granted, some situations we're not going to be able to have control of, but what we do have control of is our attitude, our reaction, our response capability to whatever may come our way, because that determines your experience of life overall. Because guess what? The obstacles are always going to keep appearing. But the difference being when you're able to speak life and act on the life that you're speaking is that even though they may get you down, they will not keep you down. Hello, somebody. body. Number 2, prioritize gratefulness, gratitude. Philippians chapter 4 verses 6 to 7 says, "Be careful for nothing, but in everything by prayer and supplication, with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known unto God." Gratitude is underrated, but when done with intent, I promise you, practice gratitude, game changer. And I say that speaking from my own experience, because when you're focusing on what you don't have, the problem, the issue, it overwhelms your mind and it feeds negative emotion and negative mindset. But when you focus on being grateful for the things in your life that are going well, the things that you do have, just being grateful for the things in our lives that we typically would overlook. And I didn't realize how powerful this was until I started to practice it consistently. And I'm so grateful that I heard Myron Golden talk about this, because at that point when I heard it, I was going through a difficult period myself, in the midst of doubting and being uncertain about the situation. Then some bad news just knocks me to the side of my head out of left field, and I feel so unprepared for it. And I'm like, if I allow this to just cause me to wallow in the sadness and the hopelessness, how is that going to be productive to my life and what I am actually trying to attain? But in focusing on the things in my life that I am grateful for, the things that are working, and dwelling on that and just constantly giving thanks to God and saying, Lord, you know what? I'm grateful I have a bed to sleep in. I am grateful that I have technology to use to be able to live out my dreams. I have a laptop, I have a phone that I can film, and I have a desk to work on. I have a car that I can drive and get from A to B. Even though my eyesight is bad, I'm able to afford glasses and contact lenses to be able to see. I am grateful that I've got hair on my head. There are so many people who do not, even though I may not have the wealth, finances that I would like. There are a lot of things in my life that I have to be grateful for. I have a family who love me. We vibe, we pray together. I'm grateful that I've got friends who have my back. They care about me. They check in on me. Then they want to see me elevate in my life. I am grateful that I live in a home with a roof. I'm protected from the rain, the hailstones, literally day-to-day things that we typically overlook. So many people did not wake up this morning. So many people are suffering with terminal illnesses. I am fortunate enough to not be in that position. And so yes, my situation does look dire. It does look like things are looking a bit hopeless, but guess what? It could be worse. I have survived everything else from the beginning up until this point, and I'm still here and I'm still standing. If I made it out of those situations that I thought were going to be the end of me, there is no way that this situation I am going to be treating any different. And I know that I'm going to come out victorious and overcoming whatever it is that I'm going through currently. So I think you guys get the point on that one. Practice gratitude. Trust me, it will change your perspective. It will shift your mood. And when you're able to do that, the way you're handling what is happening around you will change significantly for your benefit. Number 3, replace fearful imagination with faith-filled anticipation. This is the thing when we're going through these tough situations, yeah? The illusion of outcomes that the anxiety, the depression, the sadness, the hopelessness that they create in our minds is typically as bad as things are going to get. We will over catastrophize the situation, and what actually ends up happening in reality, it's typically not as bad. Don't get me wrong. I know that there are some instances where, yes, it happens just as we foresaw. Rarely though, rarely. This is what I'm getting at. Most of the time, we start to think the worst. So small situation has triggered our feelings and our emotions, and now we are seeing the worst. We're like, no, there's no way I'm going to make it out of this alive. Maybe you got a parking ticket, and now for you, the world is over. Whoa, how am I going to be able to pay this? That's it. My credit score is going to get burnt. Literally, we will think the worst, and we will just keep going from bad to worse, creating a scenario in our head that doesn't actually play out in real life. Our reality will rarely match the brutality and extremities of our thoughts. Romans chapter 4 verses 17 to 20. As it is written, I have made thee a father of many nations. This was when the Lord was talking to Father Abraham. Before him whom he believed, even God, who quickeneth the dead, and calleth those things which be not as though they were. Okay? Hopeful anticipation, looking forward to the outcome that God is likely to have designed for you, an outcome that is going to fill you with peace, with joy, with patience. Anyway, who against hope believed in hope? Listen, that one is key. The difficulty of the situation is telling you not to believe in hope. It's telling you, listen, we might not make it out of this one. That's what your negative mindset is trying to feed to you. And so, yes, it's difficult to have faith and to have hope when things are looking dire. But the thing is, see it this way. When your life is going well, you don't need faith. You don't need hope. Hope and faith is needed when things are looking the exact opposite. It's looking like it's not going to work out. That's when faith and hope really count. How much are you able to exercise belief in an outcome that speaks completely contrary to what you are currently witnessing with your physical eyes? That takes faith. Anyway, verse 18. Who against hope believed in hope, that he might become the father of many nations, according to that which was spoken, so shall thy seed be. Listen, God is not a God of falsehood. When he says something, he does it. Whether we believe, whether we don't believe, it doesn't take away from who he is and what he is capable of. And so when he says, all it takes is a mustard seed of faith to move the mountain, using your faith to move difficult situations from A to B. If God said that I can do it, listen, we can do it. And the way his principles work is they will always work regardless if you are applying them in the manner with which he has instructed. So if you want and desire a favorable outcome, you cannot sit and wallow in disbelief and hopelessness and despair and be feeding those emotions and that type of mindset. You've got to do the complete opposite. It feels uncomfortable. I get it. I lived this life, so I know how it feels. I know how difficult it is. But the results that you will get from practicing this will be beyond anything that you could have expected or anticipated. I promise you that. But you're only going to find that out if you put this into practice. Anyway, where did I get to? Verse 19. And being not weak in faith, he considered not his own body now dead, when he was about 100 years old, neither the deadness of Sarah's womb. He staggered not at the promise of God through unbelief, but was strong in faith, giving glory to God. You know how difficult it is to have hope and belief, when God is telling you that you're going to be a father of many nations, and at that point you're already walking stick. I mean, he probably wasn't on a walking stick, but you're old, you're senior, you've lived life sufficiently. And when you get to that age, it's now that God is telling you, listen, I'm going to bless your loins and the womb of your wife. You people are going to reproduce and have an heir. It's very difficult to believe that that is going to be the case, because you're just going on evidence-based doubt, what you have seen vividly. And up until that point, you have never seen a 90-year-old woman giving birth to a child ever in your whole existence. And so it is fully faith. You're having to have faith and hope in something that you have never seen. But that is what faith is. When you look at Hebrews 11, now faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. Expecting something that you cannot see, that you have not experienced, is tough to do, but that is exactly what faith is. And God says you implement that type of faith. So when I'm saying to you, replace fearful imagination with faith-filled anticipation. Expect and anticipate that this outcome is going to be favorable towards your life. No matter how bad, dire, disruptive, destructive it is looking in the present, based on what you can see, expect that things are going to turn around for your good. And do that continually in the midst of fear, in the midst of the doubt, in the midst of the uncertainty. Keep on practicing that day by day, night by night. Keep on thinking and meditating and focusing on what you expect and desire is going to be a favorable outcome for you, and speak life into it. Back it with your actions, back it with your behavior, back it with your attitude. Everything that you've got in you, put into fueling your faith, and watch the situation turn around for your good. Hey, I'm preaching good. And that's just number 3. If I've got to split this video into 2 parts, so be it. But I'm going to get out the information that I need you to take away with you today, because this is for your betterment. It's to impact your life in a way that is going to produce good results, because now we're no longer being subjected to the whims and caprices of our emotion, and where our emotions are telling us this is it, we're sad, we're down, we're depressed. We're not doing that life anymore, because guess what? That life has proved to us that it does not improve our experience of life overall. It does not help our well-being. And so if we want different, it's time to start doing different. Okay, number 4. I know I went on a little bit with the first 3, but that's okay, because hopefully you found it helpful. Number 4, use David's strategy by recalling your victories one by one. Your survival rate up until this point in your life, no matter what it is you're now facing, has been 100%. Hello, somebody. Can we just acknowledge that for a second? You have gone through worse situations than this, very possibly. Things that were just as bad. And at the time, you thought it was game over. And guess what? You survived. You're still here. This situation might feel just as bad. It might feel like the worst of the worst. But guess what? You're still here. Let me share something with you guys here. I have been in 5 car accidents. Now, before you judge my driving skills, because I'm a very good driver, okay? 4 of those car accidents were not my fault. Like when I say to you, I got hit by a bus. I got hit whilst I was parked. I got hit by 2 chauffeur drivers on 2 separate occasions. If you drive in London, you know driving in London is already a health and safety issue. As soon as you turn your car on, it's a hazard. That be the way of driving in London. And so, yes, I've been in a few incidents. However, even though at the time when I went through those, they felt like the worst situations that I'd ever been in, okay? Each one topped the one before. And I legit thought to myself, how am I going to make it through this? But I did. And so when I'm saying recall your victories one by one, it kind of ties into practicing gratitude and thankfulness. These two kind of work together a bit hand in hand. It's the process of thinking back on situations that have been quite bad or brutal in the past, and the fact that you were able to make it out of those, even though at the time you thought you were not going to make it out, but you did. And so, like David, even though you're going through the worst now, it's time to recall those victories. Okay, this situation is hectic. I'm not even gonna lie, but previously, I have endured worse and I made it out. In my case, a lot worse. Like, I've been through some brutalities and I made it out. I'm surviving. So recall your victories one by one. Get your mind thinking on optimism. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to ignite and provoke productive emotions that are going to cause us to walk with an approach that is solution driven, which is more beneficial to the circumstance that we're facing than yielding to the negative and pessimistic and difficult emotions. And then number 5, this one is more of a practical step, yeah? But break the problem down into stones. Just like David did with Goliath. He just picked up some, I think it was like 5 pebbles, rocks, whatever the case, and then he went to the field to face this guy that thought he was big and tough. And all it took was just one small stone, pat in his forehead. It was game over for the giant. Now, the reason why I mention that is because despite the perceived enormity of your situation, and don't get me wrong, I'm not downplaying the severity of what you're experiencing, because it may well be a very big, tough situation. What I'm trying to explain here, you don't necessarily need the outcomes in their depth and gravity to match the enormity of the situation that you're facing. What I find helps me is if I am able to look at the situation and then put together small actionable steps that I can take that will help me to either get through this situation or to resolve it. And the reason for that is that when the tasks that we give ourselves are like bite-sized, we have more confidence to tackle them head on and to complete them, which effectively helps us to better manage the situation strategically and effectively. So don't overwhelm yourself thinking, right, I've got to come up with this massive resolve to fix this situation. Break it down into actionable steps, one by one by one. What can I do to start tackling and finding a resolve, and go through them step by step, one by one. Guys, I told you, we're handling the difficult situations like bosses now. That's the vibe that we are on, okay? So we're going to continue. This was number 1 to 5. I don't want to overwhelm you. I also want you to continue paying attention. So I will be back with the second half of our steps. In the meantime, you are more then an overcomer. It's a bright new day, you're here with your girl, Miss Annie J. I'm gonna give them what they want, cause I came to slay. And nothing's ever gonna take my joy away. I'm about that life.